We are talking with Rabbi Leib Tropper. The topic today is Emunah Bitachon, trust and belief, or I guess there are other translations of that, Emunah Bitachon, faith, belief, and trust in God. How does that manifest itself? First of all, what is the accurate definition of these terms, and how does it manifest itself in real, practical terms in day-to-day Jewish living?
Thank you. Regarding the translation of the word Emunah Bitachon, I had a discussion with the author of this. I'm not sure if it was a Feldheim printed book or it was another, whichever printed the book from this person, Rabbi Yaakov Goldstein. It's a beautiful job done as a translation, but the title, Faith and Trust, I had a discussion, a disagreement actually, with a big Talmud Chacham who gave a haskama to the book, whether faith and Emunah Bitachon truly represents the translation of faith and trust truly represents the translation of Emunah and Bitachon. In my view, it was belief and trust, and his view, it was faith and trust. And he said that he had some kind of if I'm not mistaken, a Kabbalah from Hagoyin or a Hutner Zecher Tzadik Levracha about that as well, that it was faith and trust. Emunah was not just. We'll talk and we'll see the Chazon Ish's shita about Emunah. Perhaps maybe he's right. I don't know.
But these are not just semantic differences. Absolutely not.
They're really, 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 really meaningful, and they're very disparate meanings. It's an amazing thing. So, Emunah. The first thing we need to know, I think it's important that if I have opportunity to share this with people, it seems to be an intellectual pursuit and belief of God. Prove here, prove this, and prove that. I'm not sure we could prove. In the world of proof, we could say it's most likely, and there's evidence that's stacked up for the belief of in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but to say that we could actually prove it mathematically, 2 and 2 is 4, that is impossible. In fact, 2 and 2 and 4 is not always mathematically correct. As William James says in the Varieties of Religious Experience, he says, 2 drops with 2 drops do not equal 4 drops, they equal 1 drop. So, you put even 1 drop with 1 drop, even doesn't equal 2 drops, it equals 1 drop. So mathematics is not always 100% the way we look at it, right? It has variables that decide what number is the sum number of what we're talking about. Hence, the first thing the Chazon Ish says, which is very profound and very different, radically different than most people say. He starts off saying that Emunah, if I remember correctly, hinitiya daka, it's a propensity, proclivity, b'midas hanefesh. Emunah hinitiya daka, adinus hanefesh, of the refinement of soul. In other words, trying to intellectualize a belief is not what the Chazon Ish saw as a definition of Emunah. Emunah means it's something that to do with the person's refinement of soul. And then he goes on to explain why it's that way and what's the manifestation, what's the expression of a refined soul, what he sees and how he internalizes what he sees. Yes, there are times in life, in tragedy, that we don't always see the God. We don't see him. No matter what you see in the world, it's Shaya Navi, like I mentioned in another different lecture. Yeshaya Navi says, "Achein ata kel mistater." God, you're in hiding. You are the hiding God. So that's why the belief is more important than anything, because he is God, but he's hiding. There are those who are obsessed with the God that they don't believe in. Those in the secular world who so passionately do not believe in God, you start wondering, maybe they believe in God. Maybe it's God hate more than God disbelief. There was a story with the Kotzker Rebbe that a Yid came to me and said, "Rebbe, I must talk to you." So the Rebbe's Gabbai asked him, "What is it about?" So he said, "It's about, I really feel a weakness in my Emunah." The Gabbai told the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, "So what?" The Gabbai goes back to the Yid, tells him, the Rebbe said, "So what?" He says, so what? So, what are you talking about, so what? It's my life. If I don't believe in it, if I don't believe in Hashem, what do you mean? What's going to happen to me? So the Gabbai went back to the Rebbe and said, he said, so what? What do you mean, so what? If he doesn't believe in the Eibishter, it's terrible. He says, if you're really nervous about not believing in God, he believes in God. He can sleep well, he's fine. So, there's some people, these atheists, some of them, who are so busy with the God that they don't believe in, that I'm certain that they believe in God. They may hate God, but they definitely believe in God. But we're not talking, we're talking about the manifestation of the Emunah in Hashem. For those, Baruch Hashem, Rav B'nai Yisrael, or Kol B'nai Yisrael that do believe that there's a Bari Olam, Bari Umanig L'chol Abrum, as the first Ani Mammon records, stuff, Rambam, Yud Gimel Ikarim, that this is a Emunah that our Yiddishkeit stands on. Our acceptance of Yiddishkeit stands on that Emunah in the Bari Olam. So what is Emunah? What does it mean to believe in the Bari Olam? Not that I necessarily know who he is, though Rambam in one place says you should know. Knowledge, I do not think means to Rambam you have mathematical proof. It means you can know it, common sense. From Mibsari Echse Elokah, I can look at my flesh and skin and the perfection of the universe and say, it just doesn't make sense. But sometimes we just don't think of it. It's not a positive thought that we're celebrating about at all. In other words, a mashal. Reb Chaskel Levenstein, who we know, a recent countries came out about his life. And then, you know, Reb Chaskel Levenstein was the person everybody said, the Shach said at his hesped, that he had Emunah b'chush. Like he felt that he could touch the Eibishter, L'havdil, Kaviyachal, he could touch him. He believed so strong, such a strong Emunah that he had, such a high level of Emunah. So, the Reb Chaskel Levenstein, that kind of Emunah that he had, and he taught, and that's all he taught. He was taught. Chaskel Zechayin Levracha was mostly about Emunah in the Eibishter, believing in the Creator, in the universe, and one who runs the universe. He was the model, the role model for Emunah in this world. Reb Chaskel Levenstein Zechayin Levracha had somebody once walked into the Beis Medrash. Somebody Reb Chaskel knew years ago may have not been a real big maimin. Now he was, at that time he met him already, he was better as a maimin. So he walked into the Beis Medrash and he was riveted on the Aron Kodesh in Ponevezh. Those who've been in Ponevezh know that the Aron Kodesh is exquisite. It's beyond exquisite. And he said to Reb Chaskel, Tzaddik, Reb Chaskel Levenstein, Zecher Tzaddik Levracha, he said to him, Kayesk the Mashgiach, where did they get this Aron Kodesh from? So Reb Chaskel took advantage of the moment. He says, what do you mean? It just landed here from somewhere. What kind of question? Landed here from somewhere. But what do you mean? He said, well, the pieces came together from different places of the world, and there was something that happened, and just landed in the Beis Medrash and formed this whole Aron Kodesh. The man started laughing at himself. It was admittedly self-effacing, and really how ridiculous it sounded to him when it was something like really, really like right in front of him. I mean, when we talk about it, a topic, it doesn't sound so like maybe molecules and all kinds of different terminologies, use scientific terminologies. It sounds sophisticated, but we have to make up our mind about something that we see in front of us. It just happened. We kind of are embarrassed about that kind of responses. It just came from all different parts of the world. Emunah is davar shabalev. Unless you're a Chaskel, you could touch it. You could actually feel it. Emunah is believe, it's in the heart, but so much consuming the heart. It's all consuming. Everything that it comes in the world happens from the Rebbeinu Shalom. I once asked one of the daily Russian yeshiva a number of years ago when we had this terrible story, the Twin Towers, because people were running around giving all kinds of lectures about what kind of Musa Haskell we have to learn, and they were saying all kinds of things that we have to be misaken this, misaken that. Make kulam ahuvim. They're all wonderful things to be misaken. I went to one very gadol, Adam Gadol, who's known, recognized as maybe one of the Gedali Hadar at that time. And I asked him, what do we have to learn from this story? What is the message? The message is, he said to me, One message, Rabbi Leib, tell your Talmidim. Ein oid milvado. This didn't happen because a political thing or someone hated somebody. It's because the Eibishter wanted it to happen. The cause is the Eibishter, and our response has to be to Eibishter, to God. God is the cause, and we respond to Hashem. We respond not with analyzing political, what would have happened if they didn't have this kind of terrorists and those kind of terrorists and the other kind of terrorists. Those are secondary, ancillary reasons for everything. But those aren't the real, that's not the real message of 9/11. Then there's Bitachon. And there are shilas, levels of Bitachon, madregas of Bitachon. Not everybody, Rav Sheinberg, Rebbe used to always say, not everybody has the same Bitachon. They don't. It's something which you climb a ladder of Bitachon, and higher and more and more and more. Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha. The Medrash says in Tehillim, what is Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha? God is your shadow, your shade, your shadow. He says, Ma hat, Chazal say in the Medrash Niyalka Tehillim, Ma hat seil hazeh. This shadow, the shade of a tree, when you put your finger, it shows you a finger in the ground. You also, whatever you put in this shade of the Eibishter, God's protection, that's what reflects on the ground. How much you invest, that's what comes back to you. How does it come back to you? There's no guarantee. The Chazon Ish is strong in his position, is entrenched in the position that Bitachon does not mean that whatever you want to happen or you think is going to happen is going to happen. No. Bitachon is one thing. I believe that what happened or was communicated to me in a lamaisadic way is the exercise of my belief that Hashem does everything. The expression of Emunah is Bitachon. How do I express my belief in God? When things happen, I believe Hashem did them. Hashem caused them. Hashem is the root of all those things. That's the expression of Emunah. Because otherwise it's Emunah's belief, it's in the heart. I just think about it. But when I have the Bitachon, that it's for my best. It's for the greater of the world that Hashem wants. I believe in that. All compassionate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's my belief in Emunah. He's an all compassionate being, one that just is and can never stop being and will always forever be. And my faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the exercise, assuming that whatever is happening because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to happen and no one else. That ein od milavadai, that is the expression of Emunah according to the Chazon Ish. So thinking that there's a God, that's it, yeah, there's a God. Believing that everything happens because of the God, that's the expression of Emunah. So that's his opinion. There are others who disagree with the Chazon Ish. There's in the Tnuas HaMusar from Rabbi Leib Katz, he says something that, you'll gasp, and I gasp from it, and first reaction will be, it can't be. He was talking to someone about who wanted to leave learning because he didn't have parnasa. So Zundel of Salant told him, that's Rebbe Salanta's Rebbe, Talmud of Reb Chaim Volozhin, told him, listen to me. If you be'emes, truthfully believe, have bitachon and faith in Hashem, Hashem will support you even if it means gold coins falling from the ceiling. Now that's the other extreme. It's not the Chayvus Salavavas' concept of ishtadlus that a person makes, and that needs to be defined as well. I don't think we're going to define it right now, but it needs to be defined. The Chayvus Salavavas is concept of putting in the effort to do something and hoping that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the bracha in our bitachon that we know that we're just making an effort, and we believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who has to make things happen from this action. And we hope that will happen. That is the Chayvus Salavavas' particular position, that the ishtadlus is only motions that I go through for the curse of Adam Rishon, that the pasuk says, "B'zayis apecha toichal lechem," with the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. But it's not me doing anything. It's not my phone call that made the deal. It's my ishtadlus and the Kodesh Baruch Hu, whatever reason that he loves me, that he has compassion on me, he's caring about my family, whatever it may be. That is why my phone call was matzliach. Not because I was persuasive, not because I have a good language, not because I use good diction, not because it was the right propitious moment at the time. It was because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted it to happen. There's so much more to talk about this Emunah. Let us be zeichet to have a little bit, even a tangential level of Emunah would be a blessing.